Hello, my name is Fine Liner Nerd, and today I'm going to be taking you through a year in the life of my art to find out how I went from Disney fan art to what I do today. This. I took a break from Instagram for about 18 months, and I was just really bored with what I was doing. I was doing a lot of Disney fan art, but I wasn't doing anything original, and I got bored. Like, no doubt, I got really bored. So 2019 for me was a year of real self-expression and trying to find my voice within art. And it was an amazing journey. It was really an amazing journey. It's really just nattering and chatting about 2019. So when I came back in 2018, I kind of fell into the same trap as I did before about just kind of copying Disney artwork. And not a huge amount to be proud of, but a huge leap forward in skills on this one. Blending of coloured pencils, I really like using prismacolor. These were some expressions tests. This one actually became my profile picture. And I continued to experiment with expressions while I had this style, this classically Disney style, admittedly, but trying to do my own thing in it, I suppose. The Light Fury was my first taste of something going kind of crazy in a hashtag. I think I accidentally stumbled on the hype train a little bit because the film had been released in the USA, but not here. I found her really visually interesting, so I drew her. Again, not original, but lots of blending with coloured pencils again. I used to really love using them. Some Coco fan arts, just playing around with fine liners. Again, just an experiment with skills. I don't use fine liners very much anymore unless I want a really, really black area of the paintings that I make now. Contrary to what my username is, but there we go. That's a story for another time. More blending of coloured pencils, Jasmine and Raja, some Fantasia fan art, but just trying to make it my own really. Maleficent, I wanted to blend in this piece the idea of like Angelina Jolie's character with the classic animated character. And this is probably where I see my style coming out early on. There's a lot that I do differently here, and I think I had to paint this about 4 times to get it right. It was really frustrating, a really steep learning curve, and it really kind of pushed me into developing my skills even more. So perseverance is the key, and lots of practice. This doesn't really look like much, but this was for a video, and I had cut out letters like their burn book that spell plastics across the top. And it was a video of how I painted all the details. I mean, it's really not great anymore. Look at the watermarks in the watercolour, it's really scratchy. Gretchen Wiener's face is so rubbish. But I liked Regina George, I think she worked. And I used to like painting faces and drawing faces front on back then. I don't like doing it now. I much prefer a profile face. So my preferences have flipped a lot, and I think that's come from practicing and drawing a lot from reference and things in my sketchbook. Went through a little phase of painting and drawing women that I find really inspiring. So Audrey Hepburn, this was another watercolour experiment quite early on, and blending with coloured pencils and white highlighters and fine liners. So truly mixed media there. Janelle Monáe, I wish I'd done you more justice in this painting because I think you're such an amazing woman. What you stand for and the messages in your music are just amazing. And I really wanted to pay homage to her, and I'm really disappointed that I hate it now. These 2 paintings were where I started taking reference photos of myself. So I was playing with like the angles of my hands and taking lots of photos of my hand. I think I filled 2 or 3 pages of a sketchbook just with drawing hands and shading them to try and find the way that I wanted to do it. And it made me less afraid of drawing hands. I think a lot of the time people don't like advice about practice makes perfect, but practice really does make perfect. And I used to hate that advice as well, because I used to think kind of, surely it can't be this difficult. And it's not. Sit down, give yourself a challenge, work out the things that you don't like doing, and then you'll love them. Now hands are my favourite part to make in any of my paintings. This one is more experimentation with expressions. So I used to pause Disney films and just draw and draw and draw what I saw on the screen, and it really pushed me to work out how to draw different face shapes, express like clear communication in my drawings. And actually, Maddie Harper followed me from this, so I'll never forget it and I'll never get rid of it. Her work is amazing, and she's gone on an amazing journey over the last year, and everything she creates is just fantastic. Another early watercolour experiment, I wanted to play with saturation, and that is basically all there is to say about that. But lots of cats. As you can see, I went through a bit of a cat week phase, I think, with the theme of my artworks. This was Danielle Pioli. her Draw This In Your Style from about a year ago, and it was the first Draw This In Your Style that I took part in. I do not like this now. Look how bad the washes are and the water rings and how sketchy the stars are. That's not some solid ink right there. I was so proud of this at the time, and it was a huge leap forward for me. But I've changed, I've moved on. I may have moved away from the style of the drawing, but a lot of the graphic elements are still present in my work today. So hugely informative piece that I did there. That was a time lapse out of watercolor. I think I regressed here a little bit. I was a bit scared of what I did here with the Draw This In Your Style, because I thought, oh, I'm going to scare my existing audience away. I was very small, had about 1,300 followers around this time. And yeah, I was just thinking, okay, get back in the get back in the Disney cupboard, and do something that's familiar. It was just easy for me. So it was probably just one of those moments where I wanted to just draw and be creative, but at the same time practice some skills, I suppose. This is probably I still can't believe I made this. I just really wanted to make him look 3D with coloured pencils. And it was an experiment with blending, and I still like it. I think it looks okay. This, however, is not good. Just pushing the boat out again to try my own thing, and Harry's eye, one of his eyes is smaller than the other. It's kind of embarrassing. I'm not going to talk any more about that. That is a lesson in perspective, where there shouldn't be, because eyes are so close together. So, you could argue he's winking, but the width of his eye is not right. It's just not right. Let's stop talking about it. Quick sketch of Padme Amidala. It's just coloured pencil. I was just playing with shape really and texture, and I love Padme. Rafiki. This is wrapping paper. I used to draw on anything. I don't really like sketchbooks because I get stressed out about them having to be consistently good. So if I work on loose sheets of paper, I can just throw away what's not good or recycle it, more importantly. So yeah, this was wrapping paper I found in a shop. I just wanted to draw on it. It's really hard to get Strathmore paper here, so I think this was what I was trying to achieve. And it's actually quite good to draw on brown paper because you can use black pencil and white pencil, and the brown of the paper does the mid-tones. So it's a really great way for experimenting with values and shape and things like that. This is a collaboration with my friend Ava. She's Ava Hearts over on Instagram, and her work is so cute. She loves drawing these chibi ghosts, and so this for me was my opportunity to really push out and bring the darker side of what's really inside me into my artwork. Totally at odds with the Disney stuff. Still with that cartoony style, but not cute. Anyway, that was a great collaboration. Cleopatra, I never finished her. Maybe I should do her in my style now, because I really still like this concept. My boy Stitch. I love Stitch so much. That film literally gives me life. And I only just recently found out that Lilo means lost. And Stitch's name is about putting things back together, so lost and found. Oh, it just kills me every time I think of that. This was an experiment with blending coloured pencils, and it's as simple as that. So getting gradients in his ears, his nose, trying to get a soft but hard line at the same time around his eyes, his tummy, and that is literally all there is to say. I hate that painting. This was Pernille Øhrum's Draw This In Your Style, and it's horrible. I'm not talking about it. Romeo and Juliet, one of the most beautifully stylistic films I think ever made. And it was a little bit of me pushing the boundaries again, still a cartoony style, but doing my own thing. And drawing a kiss is really hard. Making it look real is very difficult. So I think I drew, initially I wanted to draw her on the balcony, and I got really fed up with the angle of her face. It's really, go try it. It's a really difficult angle to draw. So I settled on the famous kiss at the party, and I still love that. I still like it. I wouldn't draw it that way anymore, but I still like it. Here I hit 2,000 followers. So this was my Draw This In Your Style. And I honestly didn't think anyone would do it. I thought I'd get like 20 entries. I got about 250 entries in the end. So It was a really exciting moment, and a couple of really big accounts did it, such as Maddie Harper and Amanda over at The Animated Life, and my friend Sarah, This Whimsy Me, and it was just amazing. Like, my following grew because I had the support from all of these amazing big accounts, all of these amazing small accounts. That's the amazing thing about the community, is if you put something out there and you ask people to engage, they often will. And so a very, very lucky part of my growth on Instagram. And I loved using glitter. I should do more of this. I actually really like the effect. Daenerys Targaryen. I kind of don't want to talk about her because someone tried to pass this off as their own. They traced it and posted like a video of them making it, and then this as the final outcome. It made me so mad. This is really where my style starts to become its own. I remember one Saturday night just sitting down and drawing her, Marilyn Monroe. She's such an important cultural icon of ours. And interesting fact, actually, her husky, sexy voice isn't to make her more sexy. It was actually a coping mechanism for a stutter. She suffered really badly from stuttering in her early life, and so putting on an affectation helped her to speak more clearly. So a lot of people think that she's this overly sexualized icon with the kind of happy birthday kind of thing, and it was nothing to do with that at all whatsoever. So spread that around because that's a good fact. Some more watercolor experiments. This was a draw this in your style from my good friend Natalie. We met up in Scotland actually recently, where some of my family live and she lives, and we had a really nice meet up. We had coffee and we've been talking for about a year, like voice messages and things, and that's what I love so much about Instagram, is you can actually make friends online. She's a wonderful person. She's got these amazing original characters, and this was me. I thought at the time this was like the sickest piece that I'd made. I thought she was so cool, the character, and it really allowed me to kind of bring out that more kind of punky gothic aesthetic that I wanted to bring out in my artwork. And then MerMay happened. I don't have a lot of the original pieces. I sold some and I sent some to friends. But this was an ink experiment. I just never really used ink, and I wanted to play around with it, see if it was the same as watercolor. And it's not. It sinks into paper a lot quicker and it's a lot more permanent. Some more MerMay. May the 4th, prompt from Mr. Bancroft himself. And I wanted to draw C-3PO and R2-D2 as ocean creatures. So there you go. You may never have thought that you'd see a mermaid C-3PO. Some more coloured pencil, a lot of blending again, really experimenting with how I can get. I was really inspired by a lot of digital artists at this time, and I didn't like doing digital art personally. And so I wanted to get that digital effect with a traditional medium. And this was a message about trash in the oceans and how we're polluting our planet. Something very important to me. And everyone, I'm sure. Maddie Harper's Draw This in Your Style. I'm very grateful for her sharing this because it helped with my following a lot, which shouldn't matter, but it does, I think, to everyone. It doesn't matter if they say it doesn't, it does. So yeah, very grateful. Her character was amazing. It's really inspiring. This is one of Pretty Little Drawings prompts from MerMay. She's called Amanda over on Instagram. Her work is really, really sweet. And I wanted to take part in one of her prompts. This was me trying to do like a mermaid version of Cher from Clueless. I made a video of just making this horn and it went crazy. It's about 110,000 views. I don't know where it was sat. I don't know why it got so popular. Because her face is really weird. Her eyes are too far apart. But whatever the reason, I'm really grateful for it. This was a big experiment with watercolor. Actually, this is where I was really starting to find my voice, I think. The kind of level of detail I wanted to go into. And also continuing with that slightly more dark side to my work. I keep regressing and going backwards, cartoons and things, and then going into something a little bit more serious and a little bit more me. This is more innately me. So I think I stopped drawing. No, I don't. I was going to say, I think I stopped drawing more cartoony stuff. I hate this. I'm not talking about it. The Animated Life, Draw This in Your Style, that I didn't post. I didn't like it. I liked her character, but I really didn't like what I did for it. Some more expression practice. I'm not talking about him because that's bad. A watercolor practice, I wanted to start doing a bit more with environments. I really don't like doing backgrounds, so this was a good trial for that. Pushing yourself into things that you don't ordinarily do is really important. It helps you grow, it helps you figure stuff out, whether you like it or not. And also, if you fail, failure is a great lesson learned. Love Drag Race, another colour pencil experiment, and a little bit more realism, but still quite graphic and all to do with shapes and texture. And I never posted this, so no one's seen this before. Fine Line of Pride, I hosted last year and I'll host again. I hate these. I tried to do something with the colours of the flag to represent my community. And it didn't work, and I got into like a style rut. You can see I came back to this cartoony style after sort of finding my voice. There was a lot of push and pull. There was a lot of, I'm going to do something a bit more realistic. No, I'm not. I'm going to do something a bit more cartoony. No, I'm going to do something a bit dark and creepy. No, I'm not. I'm going to do something cute and kind of childlike. And a huge amount of push and pull. And I went through a real art block at this stage. And then I left it behind. I moved on to this. So these two were from the back end of Fine Line of Pride, and I carried on going from this point onwards. I stopped making cartoony artwork, even though there's still hints of it in there. It's a much more realistic style. These both represented something really important. I think that's the thing. I connected with something that was more about the way I was feeling than a style of drawing. And that's what helped me push forward. So this piece represents the transgender community. So the flowers have the colours from the flag. And this is just about growth and vitality and acceptance. You can see that in his face, I think. And then this one was just really to say that we're all born from the centre of galaxies. We're all born of stardust and we're all the same but different. This was Paper Flan's Draw This in Your Style. So she put out this really cute ice cream girl. Paper Flan's work is incredible. Gina's style, I love seeing her stuff come up on my feed, and I really wanted to do something very me with her character, and I think I did it. Some more of the darker side from me. This lava was so hard to do. It was a lot of the techniques were charging in with lots of pigment, but lots of pale washes as well to try and get them to butt up against each other so that you get this real separation of red and yellow and highlights and lowlights and things. It was a crazy experiment. I think I painted him 3 or 4 times as well to get that right. This propelled me forward with my skills. I really feel like this was a turning point. Piet Main's Draw This in Your Style. This was for Pride too, so I really wanted to take part after I'd done my own event. I loved his character. This was me playing with gradients, and boy, is that not good. If you want to see how I make gradients now, I have a YouTube video. Go check it out. This was Mythical Art Week. So me and my friend Amanda, who I talked about earlier, Pretty Little Drawings, we put some mood boards out for Greek mythological characters. So we did 7 for 7 days, and I had to make it a 10-day project because while I was doing this, I was getting a bit frustrated again, and I wanted something more from my art. And that turned into this, so huge leap forward again. I don't know where it came from. I think I just took a moment to breathe and worked out what I wanted to do, and I'd learned a lot of lessons about anatomy. You can see a big difference between the bodies here, and these are days apart, by the way. I took more time over them as well. I allowed myself a couple of days rather than a day. And sometimes that's all you need to make something you're proud of, is give yourself time. Don't feel pressure from social media to post all the time. And it's not pressure from your followers, it's pressure that we put on ourselves to be active and to be always posting and always creating and be there in people's minds all the time. Well, forget it. Paint whenever you want, paint what you want, and don't pressure yourself. That's a big lesson that I've learned over the last year. Oh, I think it was actually, this piece actually came before this, and I think that's how I got here. I just stopped, did a portrait, took my time on it, and then that was the leap into this kind of change in style. 2 Draw This in Your Styles. 1 from my friend Natalie, who I talked about earlier, Nintendo Art. It was an experiment with gradients, really. So going from quite intense colour through to quite pale colours, and within her hair there are gradients as well. So sometimes I will centre a piece just around one technique, and practice it and see how good I can get, I suppose. See where I'm at with that skill. It's the only way we grow as artists and figure out elements of our style. Just take one process and make it the focus of that painting and see how you do. And see if you like it, and if you don't like it. And if you mess up loads, who cares? You've learned loads of lessons from what not to do, and those are almost more valuable than lessons on what to do. This was Pat Su's Draw This in Your Style. I love Pat's work so much. Finding him on Instagram was hugely instrumental in me finding my own voice. The way that he just kind of does what he wants when he wants. He paints gory subjects and just has this amazing audience that just lap it up. I took a lot of inspiration from that early on, and the idea of doing whatever I wanted when I wanted. And so I owe quite a lot of my journey just to him being there in my feed. This was just another excuse to draw hands, really. This was a Zodiac month that I did with Judy Blue. Her work is gorgeous. Beautiful, beautiful digital work, and she's starting to do more traditional work now. It's really, really gorgeous. So we wanted to do the Zodiac, and it was a great time for me to keep pushing my style and keep experimenting and work out how I like to use colour and watercolor. This was where I really kind of honed in on my watercolor style. A couple of these I've sold, so they're not here, but oh, this was so controversial. And I don't think I need to tell you why. I drew the crab anatomically correct, and then I drew the woman on top. And a lot of people pointed out to me that the crab's mouth looks like a vagina. This was as the Amazon rainforest was burning, and I wanted to communicate how I felt about it, which was very angry and very sad, just like everyone else in the world. It's very simple. And I just wanted her emotions and the blackened continents and the globe to speak for themselves. Some Harry Potter art. I sold Draco and Harry, which was great, but I don't have them to show you, so go over to Instagram to take a look. And actually, this was another controversial piece. People really didn't like that I gave Hermione silver hair. It's just a stylistic choice. And they were like, that's not Hermione, she's too pretty, her hair's not curly enough. And I was like, well, that's how I see Hermione in my head, not with silver hair, admittedly. I know that there's a description of her, but that doesn't stop my brain from saying this is what Hermione looks like to you when you're reading the books. I don't think that people can tell me that there's no room for creative license in what I'm doing. It's my painting, it's my imagination, and while I respect their opinion, I don't have to listen to it. This was Halloween, and this is actually a good example of showing you how my mind changes course while I'm drawing and while I'm painting. So he originally looked like this, and it wasn't working, and I painted him a few times and I really didn't like it, and I thought there's something missing. The graphic spaces of the smoke and the magic were too big. So I took this concept of his arm turning into a skeleton. The idea was that he was crossing through the void, you know, the veil that thins on Halloween between our world and the spirit world. And I just basically made it bigger. I made the point more obvious. And at the same time, I wanted to do something that was anatomically correct. I wanted to look at skeletons and how our bodies are made under the muscle. So where I'd been experimenting a lot with drawing bodies, I really wanted to understand how they worked. This was for Dia de Muertos. This actually holds quite a lot of significance for me because while I'm not Mexican, I certainly wanted to express the fact that my thoughts were with people in this world that were thinking of loved ones that are no longer with us. And I was also thinking of loved ones that are no longer with me, regardless of whether it's my culture to celebrate this holiday or not. So technically it was a little bit more about experimenting with skeleton anatomy and the way I painted the roses and composition and things. But really it was just to tell my followers, a lot of whom are from Mexico, that I was thinking of them on that day. This was the initial concept actually, but I thought she was too scary and I wanted to make something a little bit more tender, which is why she ended up like this. But I just thought I'd show you another example of how my mind changes during the process. This one was a prompt from one of my followers on Instagram who wanted me to draw an East Asian goddess. Again, playing with quite graphic and bold shapes, but with detail where it matters. And this has really become a cemented part of my style now. My 35K Draw This In Your Style. This just shot off. I was really, really humbled by it. And she's probably one of the most detailed faces that I've made to date, actually. A lot of layers on her face there. I just wanted to paint a witch, and this was me painting on hot press paper, so smooth paper, which I haven't done in a while. I normally paint on this textured paper. I don't know if you can see the level of texture there. So I wanted to see if I could get an even smoother effect with a hot press paper. But I actually find that the smooth paper is much harder to create gradients within a face and things. Cold press paper is much more forgiving just because of the tooth on the paper. Another Draw This In Your Style for my friend Valentina, whose work is astounding. Her understanding of composition, lighting, colour is just, it's mind-blowing, and she's a lovely person too. So go and check her out on Instagram as well. Another Draw This In Your Style. This was the initial concept here, but it turned into this. And I was playing again with those bold graphic shapes and detail in the face again, and where it's needed, like hands and the skull. These both were Secret Santas. Camilla Roda, whose pencil artwork is insane. If you want to see some of the best blending you've ever seen in your life, go and check out her work. And not only that, but she's lovely too. She invited me to take part in this Secret Santa where we paint each other a painting and post it on our profiles and wish each other a happy Christmas. Someone dropped out at the last minute, so I did a second one, which was stressful, but it was great to be able to push myself within a time limit. And I think that's a great exercise for any artist to do. Lucifer Morningstar. This was an exercise in painting hands, so there's quite a lot of detail in there. Often, if I don't know how to paint something, I'll just muddle through and then move on to an area of the painting that I know works in my head, if you know what I mean. So this was just me really trying to say, I'm going to take half an hour, 40 minutes or whatever to really focus on these hands and how I want to paint them and get really clear, defined areas of shadow and areas of highlight as well. It transformed the way I painted hands. Just another demon boy there. Just wanted to paint anatomy again, really. Keep practicing. These were for my first YouTube video where I experimented with expensive and cheap watercolors, and this was the cheap one. I actually quite like them. They're pretty good. My friend Felix did a Draw This In Your Style as well, and it was so cool. His use of mark making with gold inks and the contrast with his penciled faces and areas of skin. It's just gorgeous, gorgeous work. I keep telling you to check out all these artists, but you won't regret it. His work is amazing, so definitely do check it out. Oh, I never did anything with that actually. Maybe I should. I quite like it. This was the guy version of my Queen of Thorns. That was my Draw This In Your Style for 35,000 followers. I just wanted to do a guy version, I suppose, but still quite feminine and quite sort of brutal with the crown and the way it is in contrast with the roses. My first piece of 2020 actually. At this stage I hadn't played with coloured pencil for a long time, so I wanted to see what my style looked like now in coloured pencil as opposed to Disney characters. And I think I'll do more of it. Lots of blending again, skills that I'd learned quite early on with pencil. So watch this space. And this is the latest piece that I've made to date actually. This is the culmination of everything that I've kind of gone through. The graphic shapes, the blending of gradients, the practicing of watercolors, practicing of painting hands and faces and block colors, and all of that coming together, crashing together into one piece. And I look at my work sometimes and I think, how did I go from drawing Rafiki on wrapping paper to painting this and being really serious about the supplies I buy and the time I take over my paintings and making sure that I'm doing something original, something that I love all the time, and not just painting for the hell of it, but really painting for the love of it. So this piece was inspired by an old kimono I found online. So the graphic way that I've painted the smoke, it almost looks a bit like decoupage, like it's stuck out of the page. So all of those references of films and books and music and art and people you follow online, and all of that should inform the way that you see the world and the way that you communicate it on paper. And it certainly has been for me. It's been a huge journey, one that I've enjoyed immensely, and one that I will continue to build on as well. I think it's really important to keep pushing ourselves and keep developing our voice as artists. So I hope this has given you an insight into how much practice it takes, how much time and self-motivation, the kind of inane sketchbook pages of just drawing eyes over and over and over again, or painting a wash over and over and over again, which you haven't seen, but has informed a lot of this artwork and a lot of my skills as well, you know, where they're up to so far, I suppose. So that's it from me, really. If you've got any questions for me, drop them in the comments below. If you've got any ideas for future content, drop them in the comments as well. And I hope you'll check out the rest of my videos. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Lastly, I just want to wish you all a really great day.